What's going on, everybody? This is James Graham, Facts Boys, and you're here for another Facts Project review. Today, we're going to be covering Be Not Afraid, Issue 1 for Boom Studios, written by Jude, Ellison, Doyle, illustrated by Lisandro Estherren, colored by Francesco Segala, with assistance from Gloria Martinelli, and lettered by Simon Bowland. Now, how this is pretty much constructed, because the cover, of course, done by Reiko Murakami, illustrates a young woman in the forefront who represents light, and a very shadowy figure with a very large hat, reminiscent of like Salem's Lot or Children of the Corn, which kind of represents dark. And we get introduced to a Cora Reims. She is having a little bit of a conundrum because she is pregnant, pretty much in the fashion that she became pregnant, or the creation that she's about to have is pretty much called into question. Cora sees herself as not perfect by any means, but I guess in the long run, she's not too sure as to what childbirth is supposed to be like, or how this is supposed to go down. But she has this child, and she names the child Jordy. Jordy is blonde hair, blue eyes, with a very sinister grin. He is given a caregiver that teaches him piano, and she gives him treats and everything for when he's done everything absolutely correct. Just so happens that when he has touched her hand, and her name is Miss Gish, she unsuspectingly draws a cancer that caused tumors the size of grapes inside of her body. And he sees her on the street, and they kind of flash forward a little bit. You see him probably like at the ripe age of like 3-4 years old in the beginning. And then you see him in present day to where he's about like 17 years old, right? And he sees Mrs. Gish sitting on her porch. She's got a ventilator on. She's like sucking off of oxygen. And he hasn't seen her in a while, and he just wants to say hi. And she is terrified of him, to the point where it calls for a couple of gentlemen to actually like approach him on the porch. Tells Jordy to get away from her because of how terrified that she looks. He feels as though, now, normally in certain settings, you would be put off by this and be like, I don't want no trouble. Let me just walk away. Jordy, on the other hand, says, you know what? I think I will, but since you're being so polite, I'll shake your hand. And he becomes fearful of Jordy. So there's an obvious tension around town as to like what Jordy is and what Jordy has done around this particular town. The town's called Enoch. It's probably in the middle of America. I'm going to say it's a Midwestern tale by the amount of wheat fields that are pretty much around here. But we retrieve that particular scene, and Jordy comes home to his mother waiting for him. And Jordy then, is scolded by his mother because of something that happened in the town while he was there, particularly when he was talking to Miss Gish. And Jordy proceeds to tell her with his devilish grin that the gentleman that he had shook hands with couldn't control that hand anymore, and had to unsuspectingly chop that hand off because it was just going berserk. So Jordy has a power set of what he does to people when he comes into interactions with them. And I think this is the one thing that has pretty much thrown Cora off this entire time. Why? Because if you follow mythology, Jordy is a Nephilim, and that is referred to somebody that is half human, half angel hybrid. See, because Cora thinks she's committed a sin against God, and one of the things that she asked for was, of course, the creation of her child, but did not necessarily, I guess, formulate how and the means of how she was going to conceive that child. So his father being an angel necessarily brings up this whole little spectrum of light and dark, for one, the whole biblical sense of some angels not necessarily being of heaven. The devil, Lucifer, was an angel himself. So there's that little context to it. And then what brings upon how Jordy interacts throughout this entire book is extremely called into question. Why? Because you're not too sure where all this evil is pretty much stemming from. And it all comes to a head because it's Jordy's birthday. He's turning 17 years old. And everybody in his house, his mom and his grandmother, who is almost of a zombie mode, because he calls for her to come outside because in order to blow out these candles, and she's got half of a face. You can't even touch her because she's so brittle that her hand falls off at the moment that Cora helps her down to the chair. So Jordy has had this impact viciously on not only his house but this town, to where it calls for Cora to actually pray to God again. And the same way that she received a bad miracle the first time, she receives an answer to her prayers the second time. In the cliffhanger, we meet a Mr. Fim, and he basically gives into what she has been calling for, and that is, I am going to help you because God sent me to help you kill your son. And that's how this story is going to basically blossom. You have a mysterious figure who is going to help a mother destroy her son because his powers are otherworldly. He is half human, but the things that he can do doesn't make him human. And he's consistently going to be a mystery, or better yet, probably an abomination to her. And now they got to see how they can destroy this bad miracle and kind of set things right. So I'll be looking forward to issue 2. Issue 2 is going to drop in July. It's a great first issue, and I will be talking about this a lot more on the channel. See you guys next time.